Respected Dr. Seshiah Sahib, Dr. Paresh Nandona, my friend Dr. Mangviro, national as well as international faculties and esteemed colleagues. Dr. R.M. Shah was pioneer in diabetes care in this part of the India. A majority of the doctors today practicing as diabetologists, they are student of Dr. R.M. Shah. Therefore, we at SwasthyaCON, the scientific committee, believes only very enlightened and great personalities can give us final and authority knowledge or wisdom that leaves no questions, and not all of us have the privilege to listen to them or meet them. It is therefore a very special opportunity for us to honor a person who has attained prestigious acclaim through his achievements and reached this lofty position. We are honored to invite Dr. Seshiah to deliver Dr. R.M. Shah oration. Dr. Seshiah is a pioneer in diabetes and pregnancy across the globe. I'll request Dr. V.N. Shah, my co-chairman, to introduce Dr. V. Seshiah, sir.
Good evening, everyone. I am very happy today to at least chair the Dr. Mayur's this oration, Dr. R.M. Shah, because R.M. Shah was at least father of diabetes in Gujarat. And everybody, I think so myself, then Mayur, all are the student of Dr. R.M. Shah. And Dr. Seshiah is a further teacher and guru of Dr. Mayur Patel also. So he has at least collected two things with the Dr. R.M. Shah oration and his own teacher, Dr. V. Seshiah. So I am very happy to introduce Dr. Seshiah. Everybody is India, those who are practicing, anyone abroad, know Dr. V. Seshiah. He's also one of the at least teachers and who is who of the diabetes in India. Everybody is knowing that he is a pioneer for the GDM. And I think so in the global platform, he is the only person with Dr. Balaji. They have at least introduced the GDM criteria. And in my practice in Ahmedabad, I am always saying Dr. Seshiah. He has written number of chapters in our diabetes books also. He's having his own book on diabetology. So everybody is happy to listen Dr. R.M. Shah oration lecture with the name of a step towards the strategy for the prevention of the diabetes. Ultimately, prevention, prevention, and prevention. And at the time of at the beginning of our study or the dissertation, we never know that every house is going to have the diabetes. So how we can prevent in the further scenario, in even COVID scenario also. So none of them, Dr. V. Seshiah is there. And I am requesting Dr. Seshiah sir to give his oration. Thank you so much.
Respect chairpersons, friends, ladies and gentlemen, I consider this invitation from Swasthya Diabetes Care, headed by Dr. M. Mayur Patel, to give this oration on Professor R.M. Shah, and I am very happy to be here to talk on this on his oration. He's a very great personality of Gujarat, and he was consultant physician, diabetologist, endocrinologist, emeritus professor of medicine, NHL Medicine Medical College, Ahmedabad. My topic will be now a step towards strategy for prevention of diabetes, because all of us know that diabetes became an endemic or epidemic, whatever be there. So I would like to say what we can do to avoid this problem. So now all of us know in the world, already in India we got 463 in the world, 463 million population is diabetes. This 2019 463 is going to go to 2045. It will be 700 million, that is 51% increase. So this is a huge problem which you are going to face. Then whom should you focus toward prevention? That is my discussion now. Now if we look at this epidemic of diabetes mellitus, all of us know basic thing here. that the increased prevalence of diabetes is usually mostly attributed to aging population, urbanization, obesity epidemic, and physical inactivity. Good. Now, what is I want to consider here will be while all these factors contribute to the epidemic of diabetes, intrauterine exposure, that which is called gestational diabetes, gestational programming, are emerging as a potential risk factors. So, having understood the basic thing, what is lacking, I'll go further. Now, we all know the very important information from David Barker. He excellent committee advice he made. He said that Barker's hypothesized that the body's susceptibility to lifestyle diseases, including diabetes, were programmed intrauterine. That is an important message he gave. Now, what is the message going to carry on? See, he says development of health or diseases, original diseases will be two types. One phenotype, that is genetic, what we get from our parents, and then another thing will be epigenetics, that is from outside. Now, most about both must be the genetic must be there, phenotype, and then genes, then from the intrauterine, that is development of the fetus in the mother's womb, that is called intrauterine environment, and then after the child is born, the child doesn't take care, that is called either by doing lifestyle modification, the chance are the child may become diabetes, post-natal environment. So you got both gene and epigenetic phenomenon. This is what we call as genetic loads the gun and environment triggers stuff. So this is this simple understanding of how the disease manifests. Now we look into the problem of intrauterine. Now take the concept of intrauterine programming here. Intrauterine programming or gestational programming is a process whereby stimuli, that is, could be hyperglycemia or stresses that occur at critical or sensitive periods of fetal development. That is very, very important. Anything occurs in the fetal development time, it permanently changes the structure, physiology, and metabolism, which predispose the individual to this adult life. So it is going to be hyperglycemia pregnancy, the child will ultimately become diabetic in the future. That is the meaning message of this slide. So fetal origin of adult diseases. So having discussed very important basic thing in this concept of intrauterine programming of fetal origin diseases, I'll go further progress. Transmission of genome to fetus, how it is done. Now this is called maternal contribution is very important, then even paternal contribution. Why it is, you'll see in this slide, at fertilization, the ovum is well supplied with mitochondria, but the sperm contains a few, even those few do not possess the offspring. This is a very important message again. Then what could happen here, at fertilization, only the nucleus or the spermatozoon enters the ovum. So all the cytoplasm, mitochondria, mitochondrial DNA are exclusively maternally inherited. This DNA is inherited. So now again important message I am going to convey here. DNA is very important. What is the DNA here? Maternal plasma glucose and fetal DNA. Here higher maternal plasma glucose concentrations, even below, this is a very important message again, even below GDM, normally we call GDM certain value of blood sugar level. What this study shows is even below this level also are associated with adverse offspring outcomes. The DNA methylation proposed as a mediative mechanism from the mother. So this, what is this DNA methylation? This is simple understanding like here. DNA methylation is a biological process by which methyl groups are added to the DNA molecule. Then methylation can change the activity of DNA segment without changing the sequence. And finally, when located in a gene promoter, that is DNA methylation, typically acts as a repressed gene transcription. That is how methylation became important. Now, again progressing further, what do these findings mean to us? This is what mean. These findings suggest that the impact of high maternal circulating glucose levels on DNA methylation in the infant can be modified by a lifestyle intervention in pregnancy. If they are going to be there, that means we take care of the mother's hyperglycemia, whatever be there, can prevent diabetes. Now, maternal and I told you about maternal fuel, both can be problem. Undernutrition also can be a problem here. and subsequently clinically I will come here. Now I'm talking basic things. Nutrition factors, methyl group supply, changes in methylase activity, impaired DNA methylation process. What is happening here is in the DNA process here, DNA methylation. If it's going to be hypomethylation, that is undernutrition, or overnutrition, produce both can produce hypermethylation. So that means mother, if it's going to be undernutrition or overnutrition, DNA methylation is going to affect it. What are the consequences of that? This here, experimental studies indicate that fetal exposure to an adverse maternal environment, both under and malnutrition, may alter the morphology and physiology that contribute to the development of cardiometabolic disease. So, I started from how it started from the intrauterine, how the methylation is going to cause the problem, and how undernutrition or both can give rise to complication, and mother-child can become diabetic. Now that means now we know where is the problem. So we must tackle both. Nutrition is very, very important. Now further studies will show us here, hyperglycemia in pregnancy, this is simple definition nowadays. Gestational diabetes mellitus is defined as any degree of glucose intolerance onset or first recognition during pregnancy. What could cause? This concern is that the GDM represents detection of chronic beta sulfate. That means already she telling us that she is going to be diabetic in the future. And again, GDM is the stage in the evolution of type 2 diabetes. That is the biggest problem with once the diagnosis of GDM is made. Now forward about now the next stage. Here, hyperglycemic pregnancy or GDM may play a crucial role in increasing prevalence of diabetes and obesity. So that is why we simply call origin of cardiometabolic diseases are from the mother. So now, so far we have come to conclusion that everything starts from the intrauterine period. Now, what that means? Next step will be now what is the problem of hyperglycemic pregnancy? Yes, it is a prevalence of hyperglycemic pregnancy. In 2019, the global prevalence of hyperglycemic pregnancy in the age group of 20 to 49 years was estimated to be about 20.4 million or 15.8% of life. This is the latest data of 2019 from the AIIDR. Now, hyperglycemic pregnancy, if you look at the picture in the world, it says unfortunately South Asian countries, almost 30% of the women have developed GDM or hyperglycemic pregnancy compared to other part of the world. Now, if we take a 1 in 6 live birth occur to women, the some form of hyperglycemia, 85% of which are due to GDM. So now we are clear now, we've started from GDM prevalence is going to go up, and this sort of, that means we are facing a situation where so much of population of women having diabetes or GDM in the Southeast countries. India is not exception. Now, what are the implications of this? The implication will be here, women's history of GDM are at increased risk of future diabetes, predominant type diabetes, as are their children. Not only that, the transgeneration transmission from mother to child and child to another, our own child again. So it goes on from generation to generation. That is very important. That means this, we have to take care of this mother before she can see itself. Now I will tell you another important message here. This is called modified Frankel's and Predation hypothesis. What does it say? Effect of maternal fuels on offspring development. It is a very, very interesting subject here. This shows. So if a mother happens to be a diabetes, GDM, and because of the GDM, her insulin level is low, that insulin mixed nutrients, the mother takes mixed nutrient, this crosses the placental barrier, goes to fetal compartment. In the fetus, it stimulates more of insulin from the fetal pancreas. So when increased insulin available in the fetal compartment, insulin and as well as glutein going to produce what we call macroscopic child. So this macroscopic child, when it is born, the adult wise, it's when a male child, it will become obesity and then impaired growth tolerance. And ultimately, this is going to give up diabetes. If the child happens to be a female child, again obesity will occur, but here the child may develop GDM. And finally, that can develop diabetes. The problem is, this will male child happens to start with the diabetes. If the female child, what happens? She becomes diabetes, and then she also when conceives again, she may become diabetic further. That's called vicious cycle of diabetes begetting diabetes. So our aim is somewhere must see that the vicious cycle is broken. Otherwise, it will go on continuing. So what is vicious cycle? Mother sugar should be controlled. That is then only we can avoid child become diabetes. Having understood this, we will say next step will be now maternal glycemia and childhood glucose metabolism. Across the that means I will go step by step. From mother, child is born, diabetic mother or GD mother, what could the child will have? In children, across the maternal glucose spectrum, exposed to higher levels neutro is significantly associated with childhood glucose insulin resistance, independent of maternal and childhood BMI, family history of diabetes. So the main factor is only about maternal glucose. So child can develop a diabetes. And then if we go to children, adolescent offspring of women, the GDM show increased adiposity and adverse cardiometabolic profile, and earlier onset of puberty among girls, and then increased fasting glucose and HOMO-IR levels among the offspring of mothers. The GDM may be explained by the programming effects of the hyperglycemia pregnancy. So that puberty in adolescent offspring of women with GDM child clinical study within the population references. So what I want to say, you have seen childhood, now adolescent, what could happen to adult? Adult and this consequent GDM is called the adult offspring will be, if suppose she is a pre-GDM, she may have chronic resistance, she will have beta cell failure, dyslipidemia, inflammation, endothelial dysfunction. All these things will give rise to in the adult child, adult offspring, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and then again metabolic syndrome. So now we can easily appreciate the vicious cycle of one cycle from mother paper to glucose tolerance, so you will transmit to their own offspring. So that is why this paper says that gestational diabetes is an opportunity to prevent type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular diseases in young women. Having understood like this so far, so what should we do now? So that means having understood women is responsible for all this problem, you must do the universal testing. All women should be screened for gestational diabetes. Even if they know, formerly they said you must have some symptoms, you can do the screening. Now it has been given up, all women should be screened for the GDM. So this is what screening for GDM determinants. Now what could happen here? Now there are three phases there. First trimester, second trimester, third trimester. First trimester very important because here organ development occurs. If you look at this picture, central system develops before the 8th week or 9th week. Heart again before 7th week. So it's most important, most of the organs in the body, particularly vital organs, develop before 9th week. So this first trimester is very important. Not only that, you must take care of the women before 9th week itself, so you can avoid these complications. Now, importance of first trimester here. The first trimester begins the first day of the last period and lasts until the end of the week 12. This means that by the time one knows for the sure of her pregnancy, she might already be 5 or 6 weeks of pregnancy. A lot happens during the first 3 months. That's a very important period. Now, why it occurs? Because in the fetus pancreas, that is called, it is an endocrine organ by itself. Each islet cells functions as an endocrine organ, appears to at 11th week of gestation, recognizes and responds to the maternal glucose in the early weeks of gestation. That is how that hyperglycemia will impact the fetal pancreas. Now, early maternal metabolic imprinting may affect fetal growth. So the message is here. Influence of maternal hyperglycemia on fetal growth, the priming of beta cell mass in early gestation may account for the persistence of fetal hyperinsulinemia throughout pregnancy and the risk of accelerated fetal growth even when the mother enjoys good metabolic control in the later pregnancy. So now this is what we did a study in our own center here, where our centers mostly we are considering GD population. We are taking about 207 people who underwent standard obesity. In that, about 87 had GDM. Group 1 less than 24th week. Group 2 more than 24th. Normally, most of the book says second trimester screen is 24th week above. But we wanted to see what happened if it screened less than 24 weeks. And we taken 54 people in this and 33 in this group 2. And ultimately, when the outcome came, birth weight of newborns, you will see those who came early weeks of pregnancy, less than 23rd week, the birth weight was 3.313 plus or minus 0.5. Whereas people who came little later, after 32 weeks, after 24 weeks, birth weight is almost very high, or 3.4 to, though it is upper limit, but still you can, Indian newborn, 2.5, 3.5 kg. So by late pregnancy, the child born will have a overweight and big child. So this study has proved. And then other study has also we have found that this is what could happen here. Almost 11,000 women trimester. The first trimester, 31.5% had GDM. And then second trimester, 42% had GDM. And finally, third trimester, 25.3. That means less than 24 weeks itself, almost 70% of women develop GDM. So the message is necessity early because screening very important in the setup. Now, if you go to screening procedure, what screening you can do? Many of you sitting here, I don't know, practicing endocrinology, diabetology, and as well as OBG. Most of the clinics will sit here, all these women sitting there are very affluent. You can do any test you want. But what I am concerned, what I am going to share with you, you must think of these people who are 70% population in the less societies. For these people, you must have tests which is guidelines, diagnostic criteria which are simple and feasible on the ground is very, very important. That is the message I would like to convey here. You have to be very, very careful in seeing people, all the people which come to the clinic. Affordable test you must do. Then this is what I developed now, International Association of Diabetes Group guidelines. These guidelines, okay, now of late, this was found in 2010. This guideline came up in 2010. Now, what happened to this guideline itself, same wide measure, I'm not going to detail, I'll just say this same guideline now what has happened, IDP guidelines has become obsolete because even at centers that accepted IDP recommendation, the approach varies and needs revision for standardization of the strategy for diagnosing GDM. That's what found in 2018. Within 10 years, you had some problem these guidelines, but we don't know what happening. We'll see that my message is here. This is not suitable for our country. Inadequate fasting blood sugar to GDM. They say in relation to fasting blood glucose, there is considerable variability between countries noted in the hyperglycemia and pregnancy outcome study of the IDPG with fasting blood glucose diagnosing only 22% of GDM in women with Bangkok and Hong Kong, whereas 71% in the United States. So for the Caucasian population, that may be okay, but non-Caucasian, South Asian, it is not useful. And in India also they found that a low diagnostic rate, FBG, has been reported in Asian Indians with the fasting plasma glucose of 90 milligrams, diagnosed only 24% of GDM. So, in India, we did the prosperity study was undertaken to elucidate its test procedure, irrespective of the last meal timing, to diagnose disease. That means we want to be more practical and affordable test, easily performed test. Here, the conclusion of this test was a 2-hour PG more than 140 milligram, 70 gram oral glucose administered in the pregnant woman, the fasting and non-fasting state, without regard to the time of the last meal, is able to identify human. The number of physiologists are there, and then accepted and also got published in 2008. Actually, this article is published much earlier than the IIDR, which is called a single test procedure diagnosed GDM. So now, what is the evidence? What is the evidence for this study? Diabetes Pregnancy Study Group has adopted this single test procedure for diagnosing GDM. Why? Because this is what I have the evidence for that. 140. Any person who is more than 140, all of us know 50% beta cell function is lost, not destroyed, function is lost. So 140 must be taken into consideration. That's what the people say here. If it is a non-pregnant state, 2-hour PG more than 140 milligrams is considered abnormal, then why can't it be considered abnormal during pregnancy? That is the message I would convey here. And if you want a doubt in a place, the prevalence of GDM corresponds to the prevalence of IGT within a given population. Now, this is very, very important study because this cannot be repeated anywhere in the world afterwards because it's RCT. RCT is very difficult to repeat. In this study, our own Indian, who did it, they are taking control 140, with treatment 70, without treatment this is very difficult. So I don't know why these people opted to go on for no treatment, didn't accept treatment. What happened finally? Silver 3.8 in them, and then the preterm level was 2.8 in control, for double in 4%. Without treatment, almost 4 times, very high level gone up. And then respiratory syndrome occurred only in people who didn't take treatment. And finally, microsomia was so high compared to other group, you'll see here almost 10 times higher. So all the complications occurred in people who did not treat for the GDM. There's more than 140 million they allowed to go high. This is what happened. So we have come to the conclusion that the study proves advantages of adhering to the DIPSI guidelines in the diagnosis of 2 RPG more than 140 milligram and management of GDM for a significantly positive effect on the pregnancy outcome. This is done by our minister of, those days he was a student, now he has become minister in the government of India. So anyway, nevertheless, this study cannot be repeated for one try, because we do any woman untreated, that's not EQ pose. So final message will be here, diagnose GDM with 2 RPG more than 140 milligram and treatment is worthwhile with a decreased macrosomia rate, fewer emergency sections, serious pregnant morbidity, and also improve the women's health related quality of life. Number of evidence are shown here, and that is why Government of India diagnosis and management of GDM technical guidelines is said it's approved this DIPSI guidelines. Not only that, this DIPSI guideline accepted by our single procedure to diagnose GDM is recommended by the WHO, a single test procedure. And then FIGO also 2 value more than 20 gram in fasting and non-fasting state again accepted. IDF also accepted the same guide. So now we can understand. Now I'd like to share with you the single test procedure has become almost universal here. And finally the DIPSI guidelines in the IDF guide diagnostic criteria 2014 it recommended 1.8 millimole, that is 140 milligram. And another supportive evidence was from NICE guideline, National Institute of Clinical Excellence, 2015. Again they come out 7.8. So we are emboldened to suggest that 140 should be the guidelines to diagnose GDM. Though finally, my heart of the matter here, GDM is an important problem at all levels of economic development. The immediate and pragmatic considerations may limit the resources developed to the issue in developing countries. So the problem, what is happening here, pregnant women in low and middle income countries are not consistently screened for GDM, even though those regions account for 80% of global deliveries and 80% of the GDM cases. So that message is very paining. Nothing is happening here. And then what is this? It's a very simple solution. A single test procedure with single glucose value, which is a walk-in test to diagnose abnormal glucose tolerance in the pregnancy, is a rational, cost-effective, and causes negligible inconvenience to the expectant mother. So this Make in India guidelines is very simple to follow. Now, not only in our country, almost South Asian countries are following it. Other countries also accepted now, follow it. So in conclusion, the prevention of diabetes obesity, epidemiological evidence, care during preconception period, care during pregnancy, and care during postpartum. And desperately needed. That's what we need now. This is 2020 guidelines of diabetes care. Then, of course, DIPSI recommends target value less than 90 fasting and 2 or 120. American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology again 920. I don't know why ADA keeps 95. Forget about that. At least American College accepts 90. The reason is, how I told you, the goal is to obtain a newborn baby's birth weight appropriate for gestation age between 2.5 and 3.5, because neither underweight nor overweight. Similarly, neither undernutrition mother or overnutrition mother should be avoided in step to prevent offspring developing diabetes mellitus. So, final message here: female gender, the key to cardiometabolic disease and prevention. Start with the healthy pregnancy, low birth weight, high birth weight, and can lead to elevated risk for obesity, diabetes, hypertension in adult life, and finally, again transmitted. So all this can be avoided if you take care of maternal health. Then what is needed is optimistic outlook. That is, timely action taken now in screening all pregnant women for glucose intolerance, achieving eglycemia in them, and ensuring adequate maternal nutrition may prevent non-probability, small for gestation age, large for gestation age who are prone to develop diabetes. That means again nutrition is very important for the mother, so you avoid both this problem. So I started the topic a step towards strategy for prevention of diabetes. That is possible. GDM offers an important opportunity for the development, testing, and implementation of clinical strategies for cardiometabolic disease prevention. So, this is what I want to convey to this August audience. Now, our most complicated problem in this universe has a simple solution. Albert Einstein says one test. This is just remember this 70 gram oral glucose irrespective of last meal timing. Diagnosis more than 140 gram. One value to control, that is 2 or PG 121. If you remember this number is enough for us to treat all women with a glucose tolerance. So finally, please, my friends and ladies and gentlemen, this all starts in the truth. Thank you very much for a passionate hearing.
Scientific committee thank Dr. Seshiah for accepting and delivering Dr. R.M. Shah Oration Award. We are doing virtual SwasthyaCON 2021. Therefore, we like to hand over the award through virtual or the digital platform. I request the team. Now I request Dr. Seshiah to express his feelings.
Dear Mayur and Dr. V.N. Shah, other delegates, members here, I am very grateful to Dr. Mayur Patel for inviting me to give this oration on R.M. Shah oration. It's a great personality of Hyderabad. Mayur is known to me for more than 30 years. He came as a young man when he was an Apollo Hospital consultant. I found him very, very active, very, very intelligent fellow. I knew he was going to come up in life, and he has come up also. And when I first time I visited Ahmedabad, he only invited me to come to Ahmedabad. It is a very so impressed with the Ahmedabad city that and that is the time I met his kids. The Yash Patel is sitting here. He was a kid. Now he has grown up. He has been a consultant. He's a big person now. So anyway, and he has developed this center as a big institute now, a landmark place in the country, in Ahmedabad. And most importantly, I have never left him from my vision. When I wrote this book, Handbook on Diabetes, I always kept him as one of the co-authors. That is very important. That book is so popular among the doctors. Now probably this month end or early next month this will be released. In 2020 should have released, but unfortunately because of the pandemic, now also a problem came, we couldn't release it. So at least next month the book could be released. So the Mayur Patel's family and my family are always appreciate each other, take care of each other. And finally, I really appreciate the way the conference going on. The topics are given to the speakers. Really excellent. I know what to say. I wish I had the opportunity to come to Hyderabad and give this oration. And I'm stuck here in Chennai, and you are also sitting there. Thanks, Mayu. Thanks, all the members.
Thank you, sir.
All the staffs here for giving me the opportunity to talk to you, share my views on this. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was so good to hear from all of you.